Ladies and gentlemen, there is a time in life when they must wake up and face a harsh reality. We live in a world where people are driven by their own self-interest. A world where some seek to control, manipulate, and tear others down for their own gain. And you, my friend, you've allowed yourself to fall into the trap of indulging them. You've been kind to those who seek nothing but your misery. You have been patient with those who will never ever appreciate your kindness. Why? Why do you waste your precious time and energy on people who have no interest in your well-being? Why do you give your love to those who will only turn it into something that serves them? Let me tell you something. This is not kindness. This is foolishness. It is not virtuous to keep giving yourself to someone who will use it to exploit you. You may think that your patience, your kindness, your sacrifices will change them, but let me tell you, it won't. There are people out there who will never see your worth. They will never see you for who you truly are. They will never recognize your sacrifice, your love, or your devotion. And you know what they will do with your kindness. They will take it and use it as leverage to control you, to manipulate you, to keep you bound to their whims. They will take everything you have and leave you with nothing but the echo of their demands. It's time to stop being kind to people who don't deserve it. You are not called to enable their destruction. You are not called to stand by while they use you for their personal gain. You are called to stand firm in the truth of who you are and to walk away from those who would destroy you. Stop pretending that being kind to a narcissist will change them. It won't. You are not their savior. You cannot fix them. You cannot fix them. You cannot heal them. Stop wasting your precious energy. Stop lowering your standards and expectations just to keep the peace. There is no peace in enabling evil. There is no peace in giving and giving to someone who will never be satisfied. You are not obligated to continue feeding their insatiable appetite for control and admiration. And every time you bend over backward to please them, you are betraying yourself. You are compromising your own integrity, your own well-being, your own peace. It's time to stop being kind to a narcissist. It's time to take a stand. It's time to say no to their demands, to say no to their manipulations, to say no to the control they have over your life, your energy, your time. It's precious. Don't waste it on someone who will never value it. Stop sacrificing your dignity, your self-respect, your peace of mind for someone who does not care about you. You were made for so much more than this. You were made for love that is real, for relationships that build you up, not tear you down. You were made for peace, for joy, for a life that is full of meaning and purpose. Stop feeding the beast that only wants to devour you. You have the power to walk away, to take back your life, to reclaim what is rightfully yours. Don't let anyone convince you that your kindness should be a weapon for their use. Stand up. Be strong. Stop being kind to a narcissist. You must begin by recognizing something critical. There are people in your life who are not interested in your well-being. They do not see you as a person with value, with dignity, with worth. Instead, they see you as a tool to be used, a means to an end, a resource to be drained for their own personal gain. And yet, for some reason, you continue to extend kindness, to be patient, to be the one who always gives, even when you know deep down that they are taking advantage of you. Why? Why do you continue to allow yourself to be manipulated? Why do you keep giving to someone who only seeks to control and exploit you? The first thing you need to understand is that you are not dealing with a person who genuinely cares for you. When you extend kindness to someone who does not appreciate it or reciprocate it, you are feeding a destructive cycle. They are not looking for connection, for love, or for mutual respect. They are looking for power, for control, for a means to elevate themselves at your expense. Your kindness, your patience, your generosity, They are simply tools for them to manipulate and use. They do not view you as an equal. They see you as someone beneath them, someone who is weak enough to be taken advantage of. And here's the hard truth. You are allowing this to happen. You are allowing this to happen. You are allowing yourself to be used. You are allowing your energy, your time, your resources to be drained by someone who does not care about you. You may think that if you just continue to be kind, if you just continue to be patient, that somehow they will change. You believe that your love will heal them, that your sacrifice will make them realize the depth of your commitment, that one day they will come around and treat you with the respect you deserve. But let me tell you, this is a lie. The reality is that people like this will never change, not because they can't, but because they don't want to. They have no interest in seeing you as an equal. They see your kindness as a weakness, as an opportunity to manipulate you into doing their bidding. You are not their equal. You are their pawn. And if you continue to give and give, they will continue to take and take. They will drain you emotionally, mentally, and even physically, all while offering nothing in return. They will leave you feeling empty, discarded, and worthless. And worthless. There is a point where you must recognize that kindness has its limits. You must come to terms with the fact that some people will never appreciate what you do for them. They will never acknowledge your sacrifice. And no matter how much you give, they will only take more. God, it is not kindness to continue to enable this destructive behavior. It is not noble. It is not virtuous. And it is certainly not healthy. At some point, you have to stop. You have to stop being kind to people who are using you. You have to stop giving to those who never give back. You have to stop sacrificing your peace, your energy, and your well-being for people who will never see the value in what you bring to the table. You have to recognize that kindness, when it is not reciprocated, becomes a form of self-destruction. You are not called to be a doormat, to be someone who is perpetually taken advantage of. You are called to honor yourself, to protect your own dignity, to set boundaries that keep you safe from those who would seek to harm you. And while this may be uncomfortable, while it may feel unnatural at first, it is absolutely necessary for your own mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. When you continue to give to those who take and take, you are teaching them that they can keep doing this to you. You are enabling them. You are telling them that it is okay to exploit you. But deep down, you know that it is not okay. You know that you are worth more than this. You know that you deserve better than being a tool in someone else's game. So stop allowing yourself to be manipulated. Stop being kind to people who do not deserve your kindness. Start recognizing that your value is not tied to how much you give or how much you sacrifice for others. Your worth is inherent in who you are, as inherent in who you are as a person, not in how much you are willing to endure for someone else's benefit. It's time to reclaim your power, to reclaim your dignity, and to stop being used. You need to understand something deeply, something that might be hard to admit, but is absolutely essential for your emotional survival. Continuing to give kindness to someone who does not appreciate it, or worse, actively exploits it, is not virtuous. Exploits it is not virtuous. It's foolishness. There's nothing noble about constantly sacrificing yourself, your time, your emotional energy, and your well-being for someone who takes it all without a second thought. You might believe deep down that your patience and your understanding will somehow change them, but let me tell you this, it won't. And every time you try to change them with your kindness, you only deepen the cycle of your own frustration and their exploitation. There's a lie we often tell ourselves, especially in a world that pushes us to be selfless and to love others unconditionally. The lie is that kindness will always be rewarded. That if we just keep giving, just keep being patient, just keep showing love, the other person will eventually get it. They'll realize the depth of our commitment, the sincerity of our heart, and they'll change. But that's not the reality. There are people who do not want to change. They have no interest in seeing you for who you truly are. They see your kindness as a weakness to be exploited, not a gift to be cherished. They do not value you the way you deserve to be valued, and no matter how much you give, they will always take more. It's critical that you see this for what it is. Your kindness, your love, your generosity. It's not a bargaining chip for manipulation. It's not a tool for someone else to use and discard when they are done with it. Kindness in its purest form is meant to build, to heal, to grow relationships. But when you give it to someone who does not reciprocate, someone who only wants to consume it for their own purposes, that kindness loses its true power. It becomes a burden, a weight that drags you down while you try to lift up someone who is only looking for an advantage. Fine advantage. The moment you start expecting kindness to be reciprocated, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't be kind, but it means you should stop expecting that kindness to change someone who is determined to stay the same. You are not obligated to continually pour yourself out to someone who will never give back. You are not required to keep bending over backward for someone who will simply take and take without giving anything in return. This is where you must stop being a fool. Stop believing that being kind will make a difference to someone who has no intention of changing their ways. It's important to differentiate between true kindness and enabling behavior. True kindness is not about allowing someone to drain you for their own selfish needs. True kindness involves setting healthy boundaries, recognizing that there are limits to what you can give, and understanding that your worth is not defined by how much you sacrifice for others. When you give to someone who takes without gratitude or remorse, you are not helping them. You are not helping them. You are not making them better. You are simply feeding into their dysfunction and in turn, harming yourself. And the truth is, no amount of kindness will change someone who doesn't want to change. You might be exhausted, you might be discouraged, but the person who takes from you will continue to take, and they will never give you what you truly need: respect, appreciation, love, or honesty. They don't want those things. They want control. They want admiration. They want power. They will drain you until you are a shell of yourself, and when they're done with you, they will move on to their next target. And you'll be left wondering why you wasted so much time, so much energy, and so much love on someone who could never see your worth. The solution is not to give more. The solution is to stop expecting your kindness to be a solution to someone's problems. It's time to stop pouring into a broken vessel that will never hold your love. It's time to understand that kindness is a tool for building healthy relationships, not for propping up destructive, narcissistic patterns. Your kindness should never come at the cost of your peace. When you realize this, you will start to protect yourself. You will stop thinking that kindness alone will change everything. You will realize that some people will never change, and that is not your responsibility. Your kindness should never be a sacrifice to someone who only sees you as a means to an end. Stop wasting your energy on those who will never see the value in what you give. It's not kindness to keep giving to someone who has no interest in changing, no interest in valuing you. It's foolishness. And it's time to stop being foolish. One of the hardest realizations you must face is that you cannot change someone who does not want to change. It's a painful truth, especially when you're deeply invested in someone, hoping that your love, your patience, and your sacrifices will somehow open their eyes. But no matter how much you give, no matter how many times you try to fix their behavior, no matter how much you beg, plead, or sacrifice for them to see the error of their ways, it will never work. At least not in the way you hope. You cannot change them because, at their core, they have no desire to change. The moment you grasp this truth, you can begin to free yourself from the trap of endlessly pouring yourself into a situation that will never yield the results you're desperately seeking. You're desperately seeking. People are not static, and no one is beyond growth. But growth requires willingness. It requires an openness to seeing one's flaws, to accepting responsibility for one's actions, and to committing to change. Unfortunately, a narcissist, someone who is only concerned with their own needs and desires, does not possess the internal capacity to recognize these things. Their ego is too fragile, their self-image too important for them to admit fault. They cannot see themselves for who they truly are, and they certainly cannot see you for who you truly are. They only see you as a means to their own ends. They see your kindness as something to exploit, your patience as something to wear down, and your love as something to control. You may pour your energy into trying to change them. You might think that by giving more of yourself, by enduring more of their emotional manipulation, they will eventually wake up and realize how wrong they are. You might think that through your actions, your sacrifices, you can force them to see the light. But the truth is, the more you try to change them, the more you enable them. You are reinforcing their sense of entitlement, feeding their belief that they can have whatever they want without consequences, without ever having to take responsibility for their behavior. Every time you try to change them, you are teaching them that their actions don't have consequences. You are teaching them that no matter how they treat you, you will always come back. You will always forgive. You will always sacrifice. But let me tell you this. They will never change because they don't want to. They may apologize. They may express regret, but it's never about you. It's about their need to maintain control. The moment you stop enabling them, the moment you stop providing them with an audience for their drama, the moment you stop feeding their fragile ego, they will lash out in ways that you can't even imagine. They will play the victim. They will gaslight you. They will try to make you feel guilty for not being the person they want you to be. And in these moments, it becomes clear they have no intention of changing. They are simply trying to get you back into a position where they can continue to manipulate you. The harder you try to change them, the deeper you will dig yourself into a hole, because in truth, you cannot change someone who refuses to change. They will never acknowledge their faults, and they will always project blame onto others, especially onto you. You can't convince them to see their behavior for what it is, because they do not want to. They will never admit to being wrong. They will never apologize in a way that is genuine. It's not about your efforts. It's about their refusal to change, their refusal to take responsibility, their refusal to look inward. Once you accept this reality, once you accept that they will not change, you can stop wasting your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being trying to fix something that cannot be fixed. Something that cannot be fixed. You can stop thinking that if you just love them enough, if you just sacrifice enough, if you just give more of yourself, that they will somehow come to their senses. They won't. They cannot. You are not their savior. You cannot heal them. You can't heal them. You cannot transform them into someone they are not willing to be. At some point, you have to stop believing that your kindness, your patience, your sacrifices will make a difference. You have to realize that the only person you can change is yourself. The only person you can control is you. And if you want peace, if you want emotional health, if you want to reclaim your life from the grip of someone who will never see you as you truly are, you must stop trying to change them. You must come to understand that your well-being is the most precious thing you have, and it should never be compromised in the name of kindness or loyalty to someone who refuses to value or respect you. There is a moment, a breaking point, when you must recognize that your emotional, mental, and spiritual health is far too important to be sacrificed for someone who will never appreciate the sacrifices you make. When you give your energy, your time, and your love to someone who continuously takes without giving back, you are not just neglecting yourself, you are actively participating in your own destruction. You are teaching yourself to accept less than what you deserve, to tolerate behavior that is beneath you, and to lower your standards to fit the needs of someone who sees you as an object to be used. Stop. Stop. The moment you begin to prioritize your well-being over someone else's selfish demands, you start to reclaim the power you've given away. The moment you stop compromising your own peace for someone who doesn't care about it, you start to see clearly. Your peace, your joy, your inner calm, it is not something to be bargained with, not something to be negotiated away for the sake of keeping someone else satisfied. It is something that is sacred. It is something that is sacred. It is something you must protect at all costs. The problem with continuously giving to someone who will never appreciate it is that over time, it erodes your sense of self-worth. You begin to lose sight of who you are, what you need, and what you deserve because you are so focused on meeting the needs of someone who will never give you the same consideration. Essen. Your identity becomes entangled with their whims, their demands, their expectations, and suddenly you are no longer living for yourself. You are living to please them, to satisfy their insatiable needs, and in the process, you lose sight of the most important person in the equation, you. It's time to stop sacrificing your own mental and emotional peace for the sake of someone who will never give you the same. It's time to stop ignoring your own needs, your own desires, your own boundaries, just to appease someone who has no respect for any of those things. Stop tolerating toxic behavior, stop enabling destructive patterns, and start protecting your heart and mind. You do not owe anyone the sacrifice of your peace. You do not owe anyone the burden of being endlessly patient while they treat you as though you are beneath them. The more you compromise your peace, the more you allow your soul to be drained. Every time you let someone walk all over you, every time you swallow your frustration, every time you ignore your boundaries for their sake, you chip away at your own strength. You are not called to live in perpetual turmoil. You are not called to sacrifice your mental health on the altar of someone else's demands. You are called to stand firm in who you are, to protect the precious gift of inner peace, and to refuse to allow others to take it from you. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for your survival. If you don't set boundaries, if you continue to allow others to violate your personal space, your emotional needs, your dignity, you are telling yourself that you are not worthy of respect. You are telling yourself that your well-being is not important. You are teaching yourself that you are just there to serve others, that your peace is expendable for the sake of keeping the peace in a dysfunctional relationship. But this is a lie. Your peace, your happiness, and your sanity are non-negotiable. They are worth protecting, and they are worth fighting for. You cannot give from an empty well. If you continue to pour yourself out for someone who will never give back, eventually you will have nothing left to give, not to them, and not to yourself. When your energy is drained, when your mental health is in shambles, when your emotional reserves are depleted, you cannot expect to be able to care for anyone else. You cannot expect to have the strength to pour into healthy relationships, to nurture the people who truly love and appreciate you, because you've given it all to someone who only uses it for their own gain. It is time to take control of your life again. It is time to set clear boundaries. It is time to say no when you need to step back when you need to protect yourself from people who are determined to drain you. The moment you begin to protect your peace, you take back the power you've unknowingly given away. And that power, that peace, is worth more than anything you could ever give to someone who will never truly value it. Stop compromising it. Stop sacrificing it. Your peace is yours to keep, and you must guard it fiercely. You have the power to take control of your own life, and this is something you must never forget. Too often, we find ourselves trapped in cycles of dysfunction because we believe that we are powerless, that we are obligated to remain in relationships that drain us, that we must keep giving in the hopes that things will eventually get better. But the truth is, you do not have to continue in these toxic relationships. You have the strength to walk away. You have the ability to take a step back, set boundaries, and reclaim your life. The decision to take control of your life may be difficult, but it is one of the most empowering and necessary steps you will ever take for your own well-being. The first step in taking control is to recognize that you are not obligated to stay in a relationship that harms you. And there is no duty that binds you to someone who consistently takes advantage of your kindness, manipulates your emotions, or shows no regard for your feelings. You do not owe anyone your emotional energy if they continuously exploit it. You do not owe them your time, your patience, or your love if they only use it as a tool for their own gain. The false sense of obligation we feel in these situations comes from a place of fear. Fear of being seen as selfish, fear of disappointing others, fear of confrontation. But let me tell you, staying in these situations only prolongs your suffering. It only serves to entrench you further into a cycle of manipulation, pain, and self-sacrifice that leads nowhere but deeper despair. You have the power to walk away from people who drain you. This does not mean abandoning them in their time of need. It means recognizing that their need for control, their disregard for your boundaries, their selfishness, and their emotional manipulation are not your responsibility to fix. You cannot heal someone who refuses to heal themselves. You cannot change someone who has no desire to change. And if you keep yourself tethered to them, you will only continue to sacrifice your own mental, emotional, and spiritual health in the process. It's time to break free from the chains of enabling, to stop allowing your life to revolve around someone else's dysfunction. Reclaiming control of your life also means setting firm boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are protective lines that preserve your well-being. They are a declaration of your self-respect, a commitment to maintaining your peace. When you set boundaries, you are telling others that you will not accept behavior that harms you. You are making it clear that you will no longer allow someone to cross lines that should never be crossed. Setting boundaries is not easy, especially when you've allowed others to cross them for so long, but it is necessary for your survival. And once you set those boundaries, you must enforce them. If you allow someone to cross those boundaries even once, you send the message that they can take advantage of you again. Your boundaries must be firm, consistent, and non-negotiable. The moment you decide to take control of your life, you begin to reclaim your peace. You begin to rebuild your sense of self-worth. You begin to reconnect with the person you were before you allowed someone else to dictate your happiness, to control your emotions, to manipulate your kindness. You are not a passive participant in your own life. You are the one who has the power to change the direction of your future. When you stop allowing others to dictate your worth, you give yourself permission to reclaim your joy, your energy, and your sense of purpose. You must also recognize that taking control of your life does not mean being callous or cold. It does not mean shutting people out completely or becoming hardened to the world around you. Taking control of your life means loving yourself enough to protect your peace, to set boundaries, and to walk away from those who do not value or respect you. It means recognizing that you deserve relationships that build you up, that encourage your growth, that respect your needs, and that reciprocate the love and kindness you give. Taking control means choosing yourself over someone who will never choose you. The power to take control of your life is within you. You are not powerless. You do not have to remain in relationships that drain you. You have the right to say no, to step away, to walk out of situations that serve only to harm you. So, when you take control, you give yourself the freedom to live a life that is filled with peace, self-respect, and healthy relationships. It is time to stop allowing others to have control over you. Take the reins back. Choose yourself. In the end, you must understand that your kindness, your patience, and your love are gifts that deserve to be honored, not exploited. You are not called to be a doormat for anyone, and your peace is far too valuable to sacrifice for people who refuse to respect or value you. Stop enabling destructive behavior. Recognize that no amount of kindness will change someone who is determined to stay the same, and understand that protecting your well-being is not selfish, but essential. It's essential. You are worthy of love, respect, and healthy relationships that lift you up, not tear you down. Now is the time to take control of your life, to set boundaries, and to stop allowing others to manipulate or drain you. You have the power to walk away from toxic relationships, to reclaim your peace, and to start living a life of strength, dignity, and self-respect. Never forget that your well-being is not negotiable, and you have every right to protect it fiercely.